Well, rescue and recovery operations are still underway in KwaZulu-Natal, and the near-term focus, of course, is on humanitarian assistance. But down the line, the long journey of reconstruction will begin. Parts of highways, never mind roads, have collapsed, and bridges that are crucial for people to go to school or work have been completely washed away. According to the Premier Sihle Zikalala, the floods destroyed 5.6 billion rand worth of road infrastructure. President Ramaphosa said that the significance of the Port of Durban and related infrastructure is crucial for the economy, and that is one of the reasons a national state of disaster has been declared. To discuss, we're now joined by the head of civil engineering at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, that's Professor Mohamed Mostafa. Professor, thank you for being with us. What are the timelines we're looking at to build bridges and roads, even if you give us a sense of what it takes to build one significant bridge?
Thank you so much for hosting me. First of all, it's very difficult to predict a timeline because it will differ from one case to another. So we need to look at it in case-by-case situation. However, according to my knowledge, I think that we have restored access to most of the communities in eThekwini especially, and generally in KZN. So accessibility is there, and currently we are not looking into restoring things to its normality, but rather to getting it back to some sort of functionality. And this can take few days to some weeks. However, rebuilding of collapsed bridges can take years, of course. We are talking about maybe small bridges, which can take about 1 year. And then there are some other bigger ones which can take more than that. So in conclusion, we can say that we are looking into short-term restoration, which can take few days, just to give some sort of functionality and accessibility to people. And on the other side, rebuilding can take us a couple of years.
All right, we talk about building back better after COVID-19, and I'd love to ask you, is there a chance here to build back KwaZulu-Natal better? And the reason I bring this up is because there have been lots of claims that much of the infrastructure in the province was crumbling even before the flooding, making it particularly vulnerable, and there was a dire lack of maintenance. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I totally agree with the point of maintenance. In fact, I can add with the upgrade of aging structure. They must go hand in hand. It's very, very wise that you spend millions today on maintenance and upgrading of aging structures rather than waiting until something happens, until failure takes place, and then you start spending billions. And you mentioned that we are talking about 5.6 billions. And I'm not sure if this figure takes into account the economic effect of what happened. If we are talking about constructions only, yes, we are talking maybe about something close to this figure. But the impact of what happened on the economy is even bigger than that. So there is a need to have better building, and better building can not be during the construction only. It must go through the maintenance and the upgrade process, which are very important elements to be considered in not only in the future. In fact, it must be our daily activity. However, that was not the case over the last few years, not only in eThekwini or KZN, but rather nationwide. And also, we need to consider a strategy for disaster management, which is a proactive strategy. This strategy can allow us to intervene earlier than a disaster and put some measures in place, which can cost us, again, some millions. But it will save us lives which are worthless, and also it will save us a lot of these billions which we are talking about.
Well, I think a perfect example, and it's really sad that in January, the KwaZulu-Natal government said it had decided to do away with low-level bridges because they are so easily washed away and they're dangerous to cross during flooding. Of course, there hasn't been the timeline to do that, but surely many of those low-level bridges that are so dangerous should not have been built in the first place.
In fact, I may say yes. We have a problem in KZN and eThekwini in particular, which is where people build their informal settlements, their shacks, and sometimes even the formal settlements. There is no town planning which is taking into consideration how infrastructure can be expanded to serve the new communities. So basically, we build new communities on top of current communities, or just to fill in the gaps and spaces which are available around the current communities. And of course, this comes to the cost of the infrastructure, because the infrastructure was built in the first place to serve X number of people. And now we need to serve maybe 1.5 that figure. And then we start to fill in the gaps by adding a small bridge here and there, by adding a small access road here and there, and so on. And this is basically not according to proper town planning. And we end up with challenges, with a challenge like what we faced during the floods, that bridges can be washed away, the houses can collapse easily because they are not built according to proper construction procedures, or they are not built in the right place. And this is very important, where to build. This is something needs to be taken seriously, definitely in the future.
Yeah. Is there an opportunity here to use new materials or new technology, new ways of doing things, and really think about the future? You talk about population growth or the amount of people. I mean, do we have to think about climate change as well and build higher in certain areas?
Definitely, climate change is a very important, neglected topic in the country. There are very few who are interested in this, mainly in academia. However, the government, they talk about it on a strategic level. And when it comes to operations, there are not a lot of steps taken to tackle and consider the climate change, especially when it comes to design and construction of infrastructure. New materials is easy to be said. However, it's not really the problem. It's not the material we are using to build our infrastructure, or even the design methods. We have good standards, we have good design methods, we have good engineers, and things are done properly, more or less, in terms of the design and construction. But what happens during the planning and what happens during the maintenance is definitely affecting the design and the construction of any infrastructure project. We need to look into new technology. Definitely, we need to look into new technology. However, we still need to provide the balance between intensive labor projects and new technology. We know that new technology comes to a cost of lower labor, and in a country like South Africa, where unemployment rate is very high, we can't afford not to offer job opportunities. So we need to balance between the new technology usage and the intensive labor projects. However, we need to be more brave and to encourage industry to implement new technology, which currently we are sitting at very good quality, but there is a room for improvement.
Yeah. Professor, sorry if there was some interference there. Thank you for completing that answer. Very quickly, we've run out of time, but we saw a bridge collapse in Sandton in Johannesburg a few years back, and if I remember correctly, it was a temporary pedestrian structure while a bridge was being built. So we know that there's this big effort to put up temporary structures. The SANDF is involved. Is there any danger with building those temporary structures?
Temporary structures are normal structures. In other words, they are designed and constructed, but they are designed to live for a short term and not for long term. So if they are designed according to standards and they are designed by professional engineers and they are constructed properly, there is no risk of doing that.
All right, thank you very much. That was Professor Mohamed Mostafa, Head of Civil Engineering at the Department at the University.